Good afternoon, everybody. We are just going to wait a few minutes until a few more people have joined us. So please bear with us. We've got a good session planned for you this afternoon for about 20 or 30 minutes. It's myself, Jonathan Cox, and Lawrence Palmer, who will be talking about the Modern Marketing Playbook, doing more with less in 2025. So just bear with us for another few minutes and we will go live at about 12:30.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our little fireside chat this afternoon. We're just got a couple of minutes before we begin properly, so we're just going to sort of talk amongst ourselves for a second, whilst we wait for 12:30 and wait for some of the other people to turn up.
Wait for some of the stragglers to come along.
Indeed,
We've got a good session planned. We are going to talk about the Modern Marketing Playbook, aren't we?
We are.
So we've got a nice little guide here that people can download.
Yep, absolutely.
And number of different things we're going to talk about, aren't there? Shall we give a really quick summary?
Really quick summary. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to look at some of the challenges that face modern marketeers in 2025. We're going to look at some of the solutions to it, and then how those solutions might impact going forward. So I think that's basically the fundamental subject for the day.
It's a good summary. We're going to look at a new phrase or a philosophy we've coined, haven't we?
We are.
Can you say it? It's a bit of a mouthful.
I can try. The digital efficiency paradox.
Digital efficiency paradox.
Try saying that 3 times very fast.
Absolutely.
And
it's lots to talk about, and we'll keep it informal, of course.
Yep.
We're going to be sharing some things that we've learned, we see out and about, but
absolutely,
equally there are. We'll cover this again when we start properly, but there are. You can leave your comments and questions in the LinkedIn chat at the bottom of the feed. So please do that, and we'll try and answer those as well.
Please do. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, we see quite a lot, but we know there's a whole world out there of other experiences.
Absolutely.
So I suggest we get going in just a few seconds.
Okay then. Okay, so are we gonna? Shall we get going?
Let's go.
Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to our little fireside chat on the marketing playbook for 2025. I'm Lawrence Palmer, the Managing Director at WK360. We're on a mission for ambitious brands, to bring ambitious brands to life. And with me today is Jonathan Cox, my Marketing Director, who's going to take us through some of these elements of the Modern Marketing Playbook.
Yeah.
So we can ask questions all the way through, by all means, and leave those comments in the comment section below.
Yeah.
But Jonathan, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and
Sure.
what we're going to discuss today?
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be with you. hope over the next 20 or 30 minutes we'll share lots of insights and things for you to learn. But equally, as Lawrence said, it'd be great to have your questions and comments and ideas as well. As I said, I'm Jonathan Cox. I'm the marketing director here at WK360. I've been working in the field of marketing for about 25 years now, across both B2C and B2B. I've worked with pretty much every marketing channel there is going, and the landscape's evolved a lot over that time. So yeah, got quite a range of experiences and hopefully some things that I can share with everyone today.
Excellent. Shall we jump straight in then?
Let's do it.
And have a look at some of the challenges?
Indeed.
So if we look at the modern marketing, why is it so challenging today? You know, what is it that about today that's made it such a challenging environment to work in?
Yeah, so I mentioned that I started working in marketing 25 years ago. And when I started out, I was working for a .com, one of the early .com companies, and we were selling, of all things, mobile phone ringtones. Do you remember you used to download those?
Remember those? Yeah,
mobile phone
absolutely.
ringtones.
Polyphonic, wasn't it?
Well, they started off monophonic,
right?
But then, they turned into polyphonic ringtones. Yeah. But anyway, we digress. But when I started with them, I essentially had 3 marketing channels to deal with. I would do some radio advertising. We'd maybe advertise in newspapers or some magazines. And there might be a bit of PR, the occasional event you might go to, but not much. And of course, we'd update a website. But three or four channels that we'd be working with.
And life was so much simpler then.
Life was much simpler, although of course we didn't admit it at the time.
No.
But fast forward 25 years, and of course the proliferation of marketing channels is incredible. So back then there wasn't really anything such as paid search. You didn't have much digital advertising. It was very embryonic at the time. There wasn't really SEO. You certainly didn't have the social media platforms. And of course, now there are so many more channels, but there are also so many more platforms per channel. So there are 20 different ways you can do digital advertising. There are 20 different social media platforms for organic content.
Yeah.
So the reason it is so much more challenging now is that explosion of channels. Consumers have quite rightly, have such high expectations of the content that they consume because they're seeing so much. And so it's really hard, or it's more challenging to get cut through than ever before. And I think it's important to say that that's also set against a backdrop of declining budgets. So we'll dive into these points in some more detail in a second, but that's the broad context. It's a more complex marketing environment, more to do than ever before.
Yep, absolutely. So you talk a lot about the digital efficiency paradox.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more of that? You've sort of coined this phrase, which is reflective of a lot of the things that people are going through. So do you want to give us a bit of background on that?
Yeah. So the digital efficiency paradox is this idea that, well, it's this situation, it's a context that we have, as I've said already, huge numbers of channels that we need to serve. We need to produce ever more content than before. And we have lovely managing directors such as yourself. We also have finance directors who see the marketing environment and they say, well, you've got so many more tools to do the job now. You can produce your own content. You can broadcast like this. It's so much easier than ever before.
Absolutely.
You can produce videos with tools that used to require experts all the time to do it. So marketing's easy now and it requires less money. But we set that in the context of multiple channels to serve, content for all these channels that have to be served, and the expectations of consumers. Because, so again, I keep going back, it's a bit like a history lesson, going back 25 years, it is thought, so the early 2000s, it was estimated that consumers received around about 1,000 brand messages per day.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot. However, it is now estimated that consumers receive between 4,000 and 10,000 brand messages per day. I mean, get your head around that.
You can't. You can't. You know how you cut through that is just
exactly the point. So we have to work so much harder to create cut through, to create recall of the content. So yes, we have all of these tools which make it quicker and easier to produce content. You know, I'm not a designer, but I could go and produce a social media banner. It would be brilliant, to be honest, but we could do it. But if you're going to do it well and you're going to create cut through, it isn't easy. So, you still got to work. You've got to work harder than ever before. As I say, this is set against declining budgets. So in 2020, marketing budgets were on average about 11.5% of a company's turnover. It is now, latest survey from Gartner says it's around 7.5% of turnover.
That's considerable shift.
So that's a big drop, isn't it? And of course, consumer expectations are higher. So that's the paradox. We have all of these tools which make marketing and digital marketing more efficient than ever before, but we have to do so much more of it, and we have less budget. So that's what this is all about. That's what this guide is all about, the Modern Marketing Playbook, which is available for everyone watching. We'll put a QR code up at the end of the session. But it's about doing more marketing with less and finding efficient ways of using your marketing budget so you get maximum return on investment. Really.
Packed full of excellent ideas and solutions, as well as looking at some of the problems and outcomes.
Good.
So okay.
That's
so
the paradox.
That is the paradox. So let's have a look at some solutions.
Sure.
Obviously, one of the things is if you're going to create more content, you want to use that content as much as possible, repurpose it for as many things. Yeah. So give us a bit of a take on that, on where you see.
Where repurposing plays a part. So, I talk about the digital efficiency paradox as digital creating a challenge for us. And it does, because of expectations of what that means. But it also presents the solution in many different ways. And repurposing content is really about getting the maximum value from the content that you produce, be that photography or whatever it may be. And there are lots of different ways of doing this. Now, lots of people watching will, of course, be doing this in different ways, but we see certain ways in which people do repurpose their content, and other ways where actually there are missed opportunities. So lots of people might write a piece of thought leadership or a lovely guide or whatever it may be, depending on their business, such as this. And this is a 36-pager. But this could be broken down into 30 or 40 different written assets. It could be 10 different blogs from this. You could have lots of infographics or documents, social media posts, which share the insights. So there's a huge amount of repurposing of written content, of thought leadership, and other things like that. The other piece, and this is where we see a lot of missed opportunity actually, is imagery. Image work.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm going to fess up. It's the bane of my life sometimes. Imagery as a marketer is the bane of my life. Finding good imagery without spending a fortune and getting maximum value from that is a real... It's a challenge. It's a big challenge.
Yeah, it is.
So you want to get maximum value from that. And what we see a lot of people doing is not really doing that. They find half good imagery and use it. And it's not having the impact that we talked about you needing. So there are lots of ways, though, of repurposing imagery. We have, and actually people here, they can't see Barry, our photographer, who is behind the camera, but he does some brilliant photo shoots for many of our clients, photographing really high impact imagery. High profile brands creating high impact imagery. If you combine that with techniques such as CGI, and of course we have our in-house CGI studio, you can combine it with stock imagery as well. You can create almost limitless variations of a shot from just one photo. Or by combining CGI production of a product as well. You can retouch, you can add textures, you can put it into different lifestyle scenarios and landscapes or whatever it is that you require. And so you're really making that investment in even just one photograph go a lot further for a lot less money. So, especially when it comes to product imagery, that's hugely valuable. And it's something that a lot of people don't do. They don't draw upon all those different skills.
No, I think that's true. I think it's always been that way, even with in the days of room set photography, which I know, for certain markets has pretty much disappeared and changed to CGI. But even during that period, you'd spend a lot of money on building the set. That was the initial investment, and you'd take as many shots as you could.
Yep.
from that set to then maximize the output. But
Exactly.
in this day and age, I think that's changed dramatically now, where in CGI you can actually combine photography or have pure CGI
Yes.
and create entirely different environments from one large investment.
Yeah.
One not large investment, but an investment at the front end.
Yes.
Which then reduces the cost as you go forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very true of all sorts of different markets now.
Yeah. No, I think that's dead right.
Yeah.
So there's a real opportunity there for people, and that's one area I think people don't maximise the repurposing idea. Of course, let's move on to video. That's the other thing that people can do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can create a hero video of a product or a service that you offer. You can do something like this. And of course, at the end of this, we're going to have a recording, and we can splice this up into small chunks of content to share. Again, making the asset, making the value go further. Sorry, we will be in your feed for some time yet with different splices, shorts of this. So there's a great opportunity there. I think the one other topic which a lot of people not necessarily aware of, or they're aware of it in a certain basic way, is automation of asset reformatting.
Yes.
Yeah, so banner ads, for example, or social media assets. The classic example that many people will be used to is Canva. And you create a Facebook image, you click a button and it will resize it for Instagram or resize it for LinkedIn. But if you have a few creatives and then you have a few formats, a few platforms that you're going to distribute that on, then you've got to update it multiple times manually.
Absolutely.
If you then want to change, say a discount code or tweak the messaging on one of those, then you might have 60 different creatives that you've got to go through and update.
Yeah.
But there are tools.
Yes.
And we use one, but there are tools which you can use to mass update the content across those.
Yeah, and those tools are, very, very useful on all sorts of fronts. They make you very reactive. So if you've got competitors putting offers out one day, you can react to that the same day and then distribute the content across all the platforms. So you can resize it. So you're not sitting there producing things over and over again manually, which a lot of companies do. That's it took quite a while for us to develop the capability to do that in an efficient way. And so a lot of companies are still doing it manually.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And so I think going forward, the automation element, also with AI, we'll come on to that a little bit later on. We'll probably do another podcast on that, the amount of work we've been doing on it.
Yes.
So
lots of ways to repurpose, aren't there? Automation, repurposing all of your different assets, and just make sure that you're getting maximum value from that content investment.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the other thing that we talk a lot about is agility, and a lot of marketing teams often discussing. We have this discussion with them all the time. What does agility look like? How does it work? And I think for yourself, you've done a lot of work on this. So if you want to give us a little bit of background on what you consider a really good agile.
Yeah. So the concept of agile marketing workflows, it's not new, but it's not actually deployed all the time. And I see pockets of it, and some people doing it by accident rather than consciously and getting the full benefits of it. But essentially, it's about moving quickly. It's about testing, learning, failing fast, adapting and optimizing your work. Now, typically, rewind, and I'm sure you've seen this. We certainly have seen it with clients. And I used to work in this way. Classically, you might take a waterfall approach to developments for campaigns. So you'd say, right, we're going to launch a campaign in 8 weeks' time. In that time, we are going to create all the assets, the video content, the posts, the magazine adverts, potentially, the brochures, the flyers, the exhibition stands, the email nurture programs, whatever it is, all of those different channels. And you'd be counting down on day 0, you would hit launch and you'd press the green button and off you go. And then you'd wait 4 weeks, 6 weeks, see which bits are working. And then you'd figure out what you do next. That, of course, means there is a long lag from you starting work to figuring out whether or not what you've done is actually working. Yeah. So the idea of agile marketing workflows and working in sprints, short sprints of maybe a couple of weeks at a time, you take short batches of activity. You still have to plan out your campaign strategically. You can't just be scattergun. You've got to do things, properly. but you can take batches of activity, produce them in, say, 2 weeks, put them out there and start learning. Look at what is working, and then you can adapt. And so you're not investing weeks and weeks and weeks of work not knowing if it's going to work. You can then adapt and optimize as you go through. So it's just a far better way of investing your budget and your time, because you do learn as you go. The other benefit, and be interested in your take on this, is about the energy that it provides, and the pace and the energy in an agile campaign versus a waterfall type campaign.
Yeah, waterfall type campaigns, which was obviously the way that it was always used to be done. You were producing over such a long period, and you'd also get a delay before you saw any results, which was the other thing, because everybody likes to see the results of their work.
Yes.
So in the waterfall campaign, you get a long period of time of producing the work, producing the project, bringing the whole thing together for eventually a big, output. And the team, with this more agile approach, I think that the energy within the team is better.
Yes.
So I think the level of creativity, people are seeing results quicker.
Yeah.
Which ends up with people actually being able to then change the way that they're looking at things. They can add a bit more creativity and affect it and see what happens then. I think there's a lot more to the energy within.
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah,
people can see the results of what they're doing, and there's a sense of satisfaction about that, rather than waiting weeks and be like, oh yeah, that was a campaign I worked on that time.
Yeah, but that must be the same within marketing department. I mean, that's in a creative agency, that's how it works. But it must be similar in the marketing teams.
Very, very much. And as you know, I work both sides of the fence, both with agencies and with clients. And, I absolutely see that and have experienced both sides. And
it'd be great to see your feedback on that, if you want to leave anything in the comments as to,
please,
what effect that has on your teams.
Yeah, which would be good. Pick up on those.
Yeah,
that's good. Absolutely. So Agile's the future.
Agile's the future. So the other thing we need to do is obviously measure the impact.
Yes.
And we need to, obviously leveraging data and other metrics.
Yes.
So what can you say about that in terms
what can you say
this is your particular
data?
area of expertise?
I love a bit
I'm
of
on
data.
I'm on the receiving end of it.
I do love a good spreadsheet, as many of my colleagues know. So look, I mentioned earlier, managing directors, finance directors, they want more. They think it's all very easy to do everything. And the other side is that often they want to see, well, quite rightly, they want to see the return on investment. The challenge that modern marketing leaders face, and something we all need to face into, is partly educating leadership teams as to what to expect.
Yeah.
Because, for example, you'll hear MDs or owners say to a head of marketing, we spent £500 on that Google ads campaign, or we spent £500 on that LinkedIn campaign, advertising campaign. What's it done? I can't see any return on investment. I don't see the sales shooting up. It's been running for a week. That's not how it works. And as we,
are you sure?
I'm afraid so. But as we talked about earlier, consumers are receiving 4,000 to 10,000 brand messages per day. So no one is making a decision based on one single touch point, unless it's a stick of gum, right? At the supermarket, and it's 50p or probably 80p nowadays. You take in lots of different messages across lots of different channels. And so job one with data is to educate the leadership teams, saying you can't expect to see direct attribution for every activity in a really short period of time. What you need to look at is a suite of activities over whatever defined period of time is realistic. And that's going to vary from market to market, from industry to industry, from product type to product type, price point to price point. But making sure people such as yourself and finance directors understand that this investment over this period of time is what we're measuring. And then from a marketing leader's point of view, of course, it's making sure you're measuring the right things for each activity. Because yes, the MD, the FD wants to see, we spent X £1,000, we got X tens of thousands of pounds return on investment. But to deliver that, us as marketing leaders need to look at the individual metrics for each channel, for each activity within a campaign. So what do we expect this part of the journey to be achieving? What should an email campaign be delivering? Is it opens? Is it clicks? Is it engagement once people have clicked through? Is it recall? Same goes for video ads. How much do people recall the messages we put out there? What engagement are we driving? But it's understanding what should be delivered by each particular activity. And then again, passing that up, but as a marketing leader, using that data to optimize the activities. Go back to the context of declining budgets, doing more with less, more channels to serve. I often see, and I think we see this with a number of our clients, a missed opportunity to measure results because we are so busy doing so many different things, and we get one thing out there, we move on. We might look at some metrics, but we don't actually sit back and say, are we looking at the things that matter? Are we measuring the things that matter for that activity? So not looking at vanity metrics, but looking at the lead indicators that show success.
Yeah.
So really spending time getting to the bottom of that as a marketing leader is paramount. And then, of course, alongside that comes the tools that you can use. And there are more tools than ever before. So obviously, most people are aware of and used to using things like GA4 to look at web analytics and behavior based on last touch attribution or whatever it may be, looking at web stats and such like. But of course, CRMs are far more powerful than ever before. There are many more aggregating tools that will bring together data sets from different places, even looking at how people have engaged offline.
Yes.
And you can start to build a picture far more clearly, saying people who engaged with these channels and these types of content or these activities behaved in this way. But people who consumed those activities, those campaigns and that content behaved in a different way. So it allows you to really optimize how you do that. But it takes time and takes a bit of sitting back.
Yeah.
But the reason that's so vital is you may say, I haven't got time to figure that out. But if you've got a lower budget and you've got less time to do everything, the quicker you can combine that learning with data, with agile marketing workflows and sprints,
combined together,
far more efficient your marketing is going to be.
Yeah.
So it's a big topic. We could do another session on it, but
yes,
it's vital that we get to grips with it. Some people do it really well, but there are lots of opportunities that people aren't exploiting.
Okay, fair enough. So how do we level? So obviously creating the content, how do we leverage technology to do that? So that's the data. After going through the data element, how do you then leverage technology in that environment?
So I started out at the beginning of this talking about the challenge that digital has created.
Yes.
And the challenges it presents us as modern marketing leaders, but it also presents the solutions. Okay. And in lots of different ways. Many people watching, I'm sure you're familiar with tools like Canva. And it is far easier to produce imagery and short videos and things than ever before. It's far easier to use technology to broadcast like this in a way that would have been much harder several years ago. So those tools people should be thinking about using and figuring out in context when to use it, because if you need high quality imagery, certain tools like Canva may not be appropriate, but it will serve the needs of producing maybe some social media graphics from imagery that you have invested in.
Yep.
A couple of other areas to really think about. So one we'll touch on is AI briefly, because again, we're probably going to do a whole session on AI in marketing and how that helps you do more with less. But two practical ways and takeaways for people watching today, two tools that we've created which are free to use. One is a creative brief assistant. Okay, so this is essentially a custom GPT that we've designed. And what it does, it prompts the user with a series of questions to gather the information that is needed to put together a creative brief. Okay, so it's asking all the questions that would be on a briefing form, but it will probe you. If you don't answer it fully enough, it will probe you for more information. And it takes out that element of to and fro with an agency, passing it around your colleagues, filling the gaps. And there's a lot of time involved in that, a lot of admin, and it's one of my least favorite parts of the job is writing a creative brief. But this
so
tool,
important as well.
It's so important you get it right and get it right first time, because that's going to reduce your costs.
Yes.
It's going to reduce rounds of amends, and it's going to increase your speed to market with your content. So that's what this tool does. It helps you get it right first time. And we estimate it saves hours in just the writing the brief process. But the knock-on impact of, as you say, reduced amends, reduce costs is also a big one. So that's one of our GPTs.
That's it. If you go wrong at that stage, if you go wrong at that briefing stage and we go off in the wrong direction, you've got a lot of time and wasted money there.
Exactly.
So it's very important to get that bit right, and this really does help with that.
It's free to use. So again, we'll share that with everyone watching. The other AI tool that we've written, which again is free for everyone, is a creative review buddy.
Yeah, I love this one. This is really good.
It's good, isn't it? So again, it's a free tool for everyone. It's a custom GPT, and the idea of this one is it acts a bit like a creative director sat next to you. So you upload a visual asset. It will ask you a few questions about it. It will say, look, what's this for? Where are you putting it? Are you putting it? Is it a design of an exhibition stand? Is it a social media graphic? Is it an advert of some sort? Who's it for? What are you trying to achieve? What's the core message meant to be? Tell me about your brand guidelines, or upload your brand guidelines. So it builds a picture of what's happening. It will then offer tailored feedback, and it might say things like, it's great, perfect, go ahead. Or it might say, well, the messaging doesn't really relate to what you're trying to achieve, or it won't resonate with your audience, or the imagery isn't very impactful. You could choose a more relevant image as a background to it, or whatever. Or it doesn't even conform with your brand guidelines. It will assess that against your brand guidelines and give you that instant feedback. So I say it's like I'm a creative director sat right next to you, giving you free advice at the click of a button whenever you need it. So taking all of the time out, going back and forth with a creative director, and meaning you are quicker to market, and also you're not always having to pay for that that service, that advice.
Brilliant.
So that's a good AI tool.
Yeah, one of the other ones I think is quite important is digital asset management, for example, which is brilliant for brands that are in various different markets. So this could be set up, again, going back to repurposing assets or repurposing your marketing materials. If you can house that in one place and distribute that in a controlled way across different marketplaces, you keep brand consistency, you reduce the amount of times that materials are created in different marketplaces as well.
That's right.
And that's a huge saving. We've saved an inordinate amount of companies a huge amount of money just by controlling that element for some very, very large brands.
I think that ties into the whole workflow management, doesn't it? And technology that is there to remove admin from the process.
Yes.
So we use we have our own custom tool that we use with all of our clients, which takes the time out. There are tools which are out there that people can use, the Trellos, the Asanas of this world, but ours is bespoke for creative workflows. And it's about making sure that time isn't spent on the activities that don't add value. So from the briefing, so things like AI assisted briefing,
takes it from end to end.
Online approvals, so you're not sending emails all around everyone, and amends you're seeing and you're reviewing in real time. It just takes the time out. So making sure you have good workflow management. You the money you're spending with your agency or yourself is spent on the creative work that adds value,
absolutely,
not the admin.
No, it makes a lot of sense. So the team building element, I mean, the technology is fantastic. But building a team that can actually use this or utilize this technology to its maximum.
Yes.
It's obviously a key part of it. And what sort of attributes do you need in that team? How do you want that team constructed? What do you keep in-house? What do you put out? That sort of question.
There's no one size fits all, of course, but it's such a vital aspect. And again, I work with different clients in different industries, and they all operate in slightly different ways. But really the key is to sit there as a marketing leader and say, what is the most efficient way for me to manage the workload that I have or I'm going to have? So that's about having the skills in-house that you need for the majority of the activities you do, in a way that you can utilize them. But there are often many activities that, they're specialist skill sets and you need to call upon from time to time. So it might be that you have a team of people in-house who are generalists, who can maybe run email campaigns and can do your social media posts and some basic design work using tools like Canva and such like. But if you need something more specialist, or it's a skill that it is specialist, it take a lot to train someone up, but you only need it in pockets, you might outsource. So for instance, video editing or high quality image production or management of paid search campaigns. You don't necessarily need someone full-time to do that. It's not efficient to do that. So making sure you have the right combination of in-house teams that you can utilize efficiently, and the flexible partners that you can call upon when you need it. For some companies, having a retainer model, depending on their project work and the type of work they're doing, is right. But for a lot of companies, a retainer isn't the right model. They need a flexible partner they can call upon who can help them efficiently produce the assets when they need them. And so you're only investing for the time that you're using in that way. So I think it's about that balance, really, having the in-house and that flexible on-demand support.
Yep, I think that's a very true statement. I think the level of investment in terms of outsourcing, if you're an agency like ourselves, all of our investment, or not all of our investment, but a lot of our investment is designed to really make the whole process efficient.
Yes.
Whereas I think in an in-house team, it's more focused on marketing itself.
Yeah.
So there's different focuses, and I think that has an effect on the ability to produce more for less.
I think that's right. And one thing as a marketing lead, I'm sure many people are doing this anyway, but it's about an agile team.
Yeah.
It's, again, a flexible team, a team that's willing to learn. Because this world around us, this marketing world, is changing at a rate of knots. It has done in every week. There's something different to think about. So you've got to have a team that is committed to continuous learning, continuous professional development, and you just need to remain agile and curious as a marketing team as well. So that's something to really think about. How can you embed that culture within your team?
And it's only going to speed up.
It is.
And get more and more dynamic. So let's summarize a little bit, shall we, on what we've talked to today? Is that?
Yeah, sure. So I'll say the topic, the Modern Marketing Playbook, doing more with less, it's all written in here. And this is available to everyone. But in summary, what we talked about, we started off looking at the digital efficiency paradox.
We did.
So the idea that we have more tools than ever before, so marketing should be really efficient, but the challenges are far higher. More channels, more content, harder to create cut through, and declining budgets.
Yes.
So we've got to work harder and be smarter to do more with less. That's the background, but that's the reality, and it's about rising to the challenge. So we then talked about a number of different solutions. So how do you maximize return on your content investment through repurposing, be that written content, images, videos, or automation of large numbers of image assets in an efficient way? So make sure we think about repurposing. The next thing we spoke about was agile marketing workflows.
Yes.
Learning fast, short sprints of work in a structured manner, learning and failing fast, optimizing, so you're making good use of your budget. You're not waiting weeks and weeks and weeks before you learn that something you've done isn't working. Data, figuring out what the actual data points you need to measure are, educating your leadership team as to what they should be looking out for, and bringing the right tools together to give you that information. Don't sit there and think data's too much of a task, I'm going to leave that for another day. It's going to help you optimize the work you're doing and maximize your budget. And then we talked about technology, eliminating waste from the workflow through smart technology that speeds up your workflow using AI and such like in a really clever way. And then finally, we talked about flexible resourcing, didn't we? And having the right mix of people in-house that you can utilize efficiently, the flexible resource that is on demand from an agency partner, for example, that you can call upon to help you work efficiently. And also the mindset of continuous learning. That people need to remain agile, to remain curious, to keep adapting in what is undoubtedly a fast-moving and challenging environment to be in. So
excellent.
I think that's a summary. Of course, it's all in here, isn't it?
It is indeed. There's some great things in here. There's even a good timeline, most of which I'm afraid to say I remember. But
about the proliferation of marketing channels.
Absolutely.
It's quite staggering, as going back to what we said at the very beginning, from just a few channels in the early 2000s to I dread to think how many there are if you were to count them all up now.
Horrendous. Horrendous. Very complex world now.
Indeed.
So do we have any questions?
We don't actually. We must have covered it all.
We must have done it really well then.
Refresh. Okay, so I've been told to refresh the stream for comments because I haven't got them all. Do we have any comments? So
How we actually operate modern technology.
Okay, so we have one here. Robin Walker has
Okay.
asked, what tools do you use for automation of assets and to change messages across many different assets?
That is basically for banner ads, primarily, and we utilize that. It's our own sort of tool that we've developed a front end for through one of our own workflows. Obviously, we invest heavily in automation. Be more than happy to talk to you in more depth about that afterwards, if you'd like.
Yeah.
But yes, we can give you a bit of a rundown of how that works.
Yeah, because there are tools for, as we talked about, simple adaptation, resizing in things like Canva. But yeah, if you're going to do it on mass for large quantities, you need something.
It is, yeah. I mean, some of the brands we work with, you're producing things across 50 odd different sizes, and you've got to automate it, because you'd be sitting there for days just reproducing everything, and you'd be so slow. So we have to automate it, and as much as possible anyway. So yeah.
Good. Got another question here from Darini. So if you go with a short sprint, are you saying that you would start with certain channels? Probably one for me, this one.
That's one for you, definitely.
Yes, you would start with certain channels. I can't tell you which ones they are, because it very much depends on your context. I think what's important to think about with sprint-based marketing isn't that you just go scattergun. You say, we're going to do a bit of this, bit of that. You still got to build a campaign structure and a flow that makes sense. There's no point, let's exaggerate to make a point. You're not going to start with your conversion activity if you haven't done your lead generation or your awareness activity first. So you've got to think about the phasing of it. But let's say you're starting with your awareness activity. You might say, let's start with those. Let's start with the awareness channels. So we might be doing a series of organic social posts. We might be running some other forms of advertising. Develop those. You can launch those in bursts, be learning how they're performing, and then moving on to your consideration phase. So you've now got people in the funnel, and you optimize that so you know that is then going to be more efficient.
Yeah.
You then optimize the consideration activities. So it might be different forms of search that you're going to use to bring people back in, brand terms and such like. So you've got to work in a logical fashion through the strategy, and start with the channels that match those phases, really. So it's a long, complex topic that you can dive into for days, and it's very contextual. So Darini, again, very happy to talk about that in more detail and about the challenges you're facing, if helpful. But that's an interesting one.
Okay.
Got another question here actually from Robin about digital asset management. Digital asset management tools.
Right.
Saying they tend to be extremely expensive. Do you have recommendations on cost-effective tools for this?
Well, when you say tend to be expensive, it depends on what you're trying to do with it. I think that digital asset management is actually quite a big subject. It can be used for a multiple of different things. We use it we have our own, and we use it for our own workflows, but we also use it to distribute our clients' assets abroad. So you're right. If you're buying one of these digital asset management systems as a system, they are horribly expensive. But one of the benefits of something that WK360 does is that you share that asset. So we're able to provide you with that service at a much reduced cost because it's shared. And it's as simple as that. Asset management is something we've been involved in since it first came out, which is probably the late 90s, and we've been developing that ever since. So again, that's a different way of it. So how you buy it,
but the other angle, of course, of that is not just the cost, but the value from it. Because of course, as you say, digital asset management tools, especially where you're using, lots of different people in different sites, maybe agency partners have to access it, access those assets. It's about consistency.
Absolutely.
So making sure your brand is well represented. And the opportunity cost of not having one, the amount of time, I mean, goodness me, the amount of time I've spent hacking around servers, trying to find the right images, checking I've got the correct version of it, the admin, the wasted time of that, it has to be taken into account as well.
We did a study with a client. I won't mention the name, but a large retail client, and they estimated that we'd save them something like 1,700 hours in a year.
Wow.
Just in image searching alone. Now that is a huge cost in its own right. If you've got that level of assets to distribute, the amount of saving it takes from your own people internally, that person can be then tuned into something, doing something more productive than trying to source images for PR companies or whatever. That's where you make the savings.
Yeah, no, fabulous. Good. All right. Well, I think that covers all the questions we've had in.
Brilliant.
It's been a good chat.
Been a good chat. Thank you very much for joining us. And hopefully we'll see you on the next one.
To be confirmed.
To be confirmed.
Of course. This is available to download. So in a short while, when we finish talking, you will see a QR code, which you can scan and download this free of charge. We don't even ask for your data. We're that nice. And we'll also put a link to it in the comments and share it afterwards. So please do download it, have a read, let us know your thoughts. Any other questions? And
that's it.
Be great.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye. Have a great afternoon.